in Chazon Ish, Faith and Trust, page 58. What we're going to deal with here is his topic of really is Musar v'Halacha, translated as morality and halacha. There is a moral to halacha, or is there? That's really the question that he's going to present. So he said halachic rulings sometimes have ramifications in the realm of morals, and it is the halacha that sometimes, in effect, sets the moral standards. For example, in the Gemara, Baba Batra, page 21b, it states that when it comes to school teachers, Bill, watch out, okay? When it comes to school teachers, there can be no claim of infringement on one's livelihood. Okay? Bill was a former school teacher. If there are teachers working in a certain city, and suddenly other teachers come from another place and start teaching there, it is the nature of people not to be satisfied with the old and familiar, and everyone starts sending their children to the newcomers, impinging on the livelihood of the local teachers. Now, when I was reading this, I was thinking, did the Chazon Ish go through this? Because he's really detailing it in very, very nicely. But this is also how break-off synagogues happen, how everything happens. If somebody new comes into town, presents the new Coke, as it were, and so people want to try the new stuff out. They may like it, may not like it, but the shul, the school, whatever it's going to do, feels threatened by that. Now, if you remember from the last time we learned that if I have real bitachon and real trust in Hashem, so it really wouldn't matter. Somebody comes into my area, as long as it's clear that it's not going to damage my livelihood, that would be another halach. I can't go into one place. For instance, if I had a bookstore and Myra wanted to come with a bookstore, and the area could only support one bookstore, it's clear, and therefore both of us are going to go broke because he wants to get in the action. The other court, the Jewish court, could stop Myra from opening it up. But if we are in an area, or if we're so far apart that really it won't affect us, so then you cannot stop that sort of thing from opening up, because we can do it. And at that point, we kick into bitachon and say that I should call Myra up and say, we're all in the same business, let's try to work together, so on and so forth. Okay? That's what should happen in that situation. But here, where it comes to the school, the halacha is, it doesn't matter if you can or cannot make a living. Somebody else comes in, you have no right to stop them. Okay?
Why is it different between a business and an education institution?
I'll give you the answer now, but we're going to come through it anyway. But the reason is because Torah should be taught for free, and not everybody learns the same way. Everybody learns in a different manner. Thus, you have, what's it called? These schools.
Magnet?
Yeah, but Montessori. You have Montessori. You have within the homeschooling world, you have the unschooling versus traditional schooling, and again, showing that not everybody learns the same way. In Hebrew, you have to teach them the feed darko according to the child's way of learning. So even the Gemara is recognizing that we all learn differently. So if we all learn differently, my presentation of the material may not be the same as yours. The kids may enjoy mine versus yours, or yours versus mine. Okay, and you see that in schools all the time, where some people love to be challenged, and so they want to go into that level of class. The other person doesn't want to be challenged, and they really rather get the person who gives them everything in front and says, just do this and you'll be happy. Okay, trade school, if you will, versus college courses. Okay, but that's what he's presenting. You have teachers coming in. He said the injured teachers begin to hate the newcomers who are threatening their livelihood, and that hatred causes them to think up all manners of pretexts, faults, and libels to use against them until they get used to speaking ill of them. So what are they getting involved with? Our favorite topic, Lashon Hara, Motzi Shem Ra. Lashon Hara, telling the truth, Motzi Shem Ra, lying about the people. They're spreading rumors, whatever the case is going to be, they're used to it. They think it's a mitzvah already. That's what he's presenting. People do this. People do this all the time. Okay, they see a competition, they speak negatively about the competition, and they think they're righteous for doing it. That's a killer. When you think you're righteous, and so what's the expression? The righteous indignation. We all have the righteous indignation. Things deteriorate to the point that they begin to libel the newcomers falsely and to awaken the feelings of mercy of the townspeople against their seeming cruelty. Quarrels and fights follow, and sometimes the locals take revenge on the newcomers to the best of their ability. Now, again, I want you to think about how, I'll only stick within the Jewish role for this, how shuls work. A new person comes in, wants to be the broom that cleans the corners, as it were, in other words, shake up the status quo. People get really upset at that individual coming in, and they want to stop that individual, but they can't do it because if they would openly say, we don't like what you're doing, so then people would say, but we want to grow, we want to do this, we want to do that. So they have to say they're only hurting the show. They only do this, only do that. So that's really how we stop the newcomer from being the person who's going to forge forward, and because they don't know any of the politics. It's a great thing, coming in, you don't know any politics. So, because when you go to a board meeting, if it's ever gone to a board meeting, and I guess this would also be in a church.
I'm going to one tomorrow.
So yeah?
I'm going to one tomorrow.
You're going to?
I'm going to the board meeting.
There you go. When you go into a board meeting, the first thing, when you present an idea, the first thing they say is, oh, we tried that already, and it didn't work. Well, shouldn't we try that again? No, we tried that already. Read my lips. We tried that already, and it didn't work. So we're not going to repeat it? No. And it's the old school looking at you, and then they threaten you. They say, well, if you really want to try it, go ahead, but you're spinning your wheels. And you're thinking, I'm only trying to help. Well, just listen. You be here for a couple of years before you say anything. Bang. They really bang at you. And that's the problem of board meetings, because you come to realize that nothing's going to change. So then you have to decide if I'm going to be on the part of foolishness or I'm just going to use a facility. And I think most people just decide, I'll use the facility and leave me alone. You keep your little boards to yourself and talk about how much it costs to cut the tablecloths of Shabbos. Yes, I am negative on boards. Yes. Okay. Not as negative as I am on Hebrew school, but nonetheless, I leave that to you. That was another rant I did in the history classes. Remember that rant? Yeah. Okay. That was American experience. So again, it's on YouTube. You can see the rant. Okay. Now all of these, and it's a true rant. It's not nothing I say is false when it comes to that. Okay. Now all of these actions, he continues, would be clean of any sin or transgression if, according to halacha, the locals were indeed allowed to hinder the newcomers. If so, the newcomers would be sinners, as they would be going against the halacha that was told to Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount Sinai. And that's the assumption. All halacha was said to Moshe at Mount Sinai. Okay, everything that we do is based upon that. Under such circumstances, there would be no prohibition against conducting such a struggle against them. The hatred would not be causeless because you're breaking law. The prohibition against slander, lashon hara, would not apply because you're wicked people. Applying all the stuff that we know. And if I know as a wicked person, there's no instance of lashon hara, to tell the truth. You're saving people. Okay? And indeed, it would be a sacred battle, a legitimate, even halachically commendable battle, aimed at setting things right religiously, if it would have been against halacha. But now that the halacha has decreed that competition between scholars increases wisdom in both parties, which was another thing. When I have competition, and this also bodes for the business world. When I open up a store like yours, again, both of us can live, both of us can support ourselves, no problem. But what I do is I force you, the first guy, to improve your product line, improve your service line. We sharpen each other up. Gimble, the famous word is Gimble and Macy's. I just reversed the name. Okay.
Yeah.
Gimbals, Macy's and Gimbals, where they that was two stores in New York that they had constant struggle, constant battles to try to get the business. And what it did was they made it both rich because they were fighting each other, getting and always trying to get on top of the other one, and so the consumer won. Consumer also won because we got the best product. I'm much younger than that fight, but it's I don't know if anybody here actually remembers the fight. When was the fight? In the 50s or something?
I think it went back to the 30s.
30?
Started then.
It went way back, yeah.
I'm saying, I only know from the Miracle on 34th Street.
Miracle on 34th Street.
That's all I know from. That was that Miracle on 34th. You know the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only reason I know that. Those amazing Gimbal, because now they're both out of business, I think. But it's huh?
Macy's.
Macy's still in business?
Yeah.
Okay,
Macy's
fine.
bought out Marshall Fields and a whole bunch of other people.
Okay,
They're
good enough.
the last man standing.
There you go. Okay, but there, that was a legal competition because the area could support both. Okay, so now if that's the case, but when it comes to schools, like I said, we don't support both, but because competition between scholars increases wisdom in both parties, and this principle takes precedence over the livelihood of individuals, the newcomers are acting in accordance with the law, and those who oppose them are attacking innocent people. When they hate them in their hearts, they are transgressing the prohibition against hating one fellow Jew. And when they speak evil of them, they are transgressing the prohibition of slander. When they congregate people together for the purpose of quarreling, they are transgressing the prohibition of not being like Korach. In other words, not supposed to be like Korach, who congregated people in opposition to Moshe, Rabbeinu, and Aaron Cohen. Everybody know the case of Korach? You know the case, Bill? Okay. He wanted to get rulership, so he made a fight with Moshe and Aaron, and he congregated 250 people who would end up being swallowed or burned, depending on who you were, burned by offering the incense, because only the Kohen Gadol could offer the incense, and buried alive or swallowed by the earth if you were Datan and Aviram and their families, who were openly against Moshe himself. And, sorry? Okay, so like Korach, and when they take revenge on them by refusing them favors, they are transgressing the prohibition against taking revenge. So, for those who want to hear more about that, I invite you to watch what we talked about this morning, because it's basically a repeat of what we said this morning on one part of the class. So it's that was the Ein Yaakov. Talks similar to the sort of thing. When it says in the Gemara, Baba Batra, that Rav Huna agrees that in the case of school teachers, one cannot hinder the competitors, many moral laws are indicated in this halacha and result from it. So we have the moral implication of if somebody's coming in, normally, Hasagas Gevul would take over. If it's going to ruin my livelihood, normally, I can get the rabbis involved, and they will stop the action by putting a fine against this new person who wants to come in, or whatever the case is going to be. But when it comes to teachers, it can't happen. But we also learned that today, Hasagas Gevul is very difficult because of the internet. I can do everything on the internet. So to argue that if you open up the store and I open up the store in the same place, what's the difference? I can have somebody has the online and they're selling their products. Is there an issue of a gevul to them, taking away my livelihood? And there's a whole argument that rages about that.
Have you had any decisions yet on that?
Yeah, of course. You have to watch my classes. They're all online. This is all cheap shots to get you to watch my classes online.
Click on the ad.
Right, if I put ads down, it would give you. But it's no, we did speak about that. I forget what the name of the course was. Probably email ethics. because that's really what it was part of. It was, can I give you a blast? What's it called? When they send you an email blast, and I just send it out there. It's like junk mail.
Yeah, mass
So-
mailing.
Your mass mailing, or whatever it's called. But it's, so it would have been, it was in that. But yeah, we have a problem with that when they can operate, when they can't operate, what do we do about that? Yeah, so it is there. Nothing is not spoken about, everything is spoken about in halachic terms. Okay, so we just have to know how to, one thing I have to say about that, whenever we have a new thing, we just have to figure out what really is the nature of the beast. And then we can plug in all the principles. Because we have the principles. It's just a matter of plugging them in. And so the Torah, even though it was written over 3,000 years ago, it was written to be an eternal document. And that's why there's, sometimes you have stories, sometimes you have straight out laws. But those laws become the framework for everything that we have to deal with today. So like I said, Hasagas Gavul, which is talking about moving the border on somebody's land, that's really what the commandment is. I can't move the border stick from one land to the other because it's stealing. So now it comes into the moral implications of Hasagas Gavul, which gets you back to the business ethics of Hasagas Gavul, and so on and so forth. So it really does reverberate throughout the whole system. Just one halacha, because I'm talking about. So imagine, multiply that by 613 is what we have altogether. So it's it goes on forever. On what we can learn from those laws, as long as we try to understand what's behind them. And no matter whose reason you take, it may be Rambam, Saadia Gaon, whoever you want to take the reasons for, or even sometimes it's the Torah. Okay.
It's a good principle for that, the course we have on Tuesday mornings, in our lunch and learns.
Right.
And when you look at halakha, where it's a competition of interpretations, that it's to add to wisdom, it's not to demean each other.
Correct.
It's always in the spirit of trying to find the truth.
Right. And because
Faith and truth. It's
right.
like whole book.
Right. Because in all it says in an argument, he's going to get to that too. But it's basically, how do you know that it's a good, a real argument? Because you're only going for the truth. What does Hashem want from me? That's all we have to find out. If we know what Hashem wants from us, and that's really what the whole desire is, fine. If it's a desire to win, then you get out of that. You should cease and desist the argument, because that's not a valid argument. That's a foolish argument.
It's like a good model for this competition. If it's to beat each other up and destroy each other's business, then it's bad. If it's to improve both of you,
right?
Then
Right. Again, when it comes to business,
true competition is.
Well, like I said, when it comes to business, you have to be very careful with that, because if both of us cannot support, if the area cannot support the competition, then it's not fair. The example also would be in the synagogue world. Let's say there's only 10 guys in town. That's all you have, 10 Jewish guys in town. So now make a break off. You're killing both systems. You can't do that. That's not like a school.
Never get a minion again.
Right, the minute is over, because here's five. But it's in a school situation, and that's why it's so interesting that in the school situation, because really for teaching Torah, I'm really not supposed to be paid. That's the one. I get paid for different things. I get paid for making the videos. I get paid for writing the bulletins. But I don't get, quote unquote, paid for teaching the courses. Anytime it comes into Torah like this, I get paid for teaching people how to read Hebrew, or the diktuk, the grammar. That I get paid for. But when I'm doing Gemara, when I'm doing this, when I'm doing Chumash, that's not part of my quote unquote salary. Okay, that's the distinction that we're drawing. But everything, but the preparation, the making everything up, that's what I'm paid for. To answer the telephone, you got me on that. Okay, that's what people are being paid for. So that's another reason why, if I'm an educator solely an educator who's teaching on the higher levels, then we're all supposed to be, it's no big deal. You're not really hurting my livelihood anymore if I'm not being paid for that. Understand? So that's the other part of that, which he's not including, but it has to be inserted into the argument. Okay. Everybody's clear on that? Okay. So now, one of the obligations of morality is that a person should try to instill in his heart this great principle. In any case in which one finds himself in opposition to a fellow Jew, one has to weigh the matter in accordance with halakha in order to define the persecutor and the persecuted. This knows who's the victim. Okay, who is really the victim here? The study of perfecting one's character traits, musar, which is what this course is about also, instills in one love and pity for the persecuted and severe condemnation for the persecutor. How terrible is then the danger of misidentifying the persecutor and the persecuted and vice versa. The only way to know the truth is to study the books of the halakhic authorities, those books of rulings that we have received from the great rabbis of the past. So that's number one. If I want to understand who is the victim here, I have to do my research. And who do I do my research with? Not some lawyer who's going to tell me that you are the victim, or since we're living in a society of victims, everybody's a victim today. What we're saying is here, no, you have to go back to the Gemara and you have to find out, according to the halachic standards, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. The one in the right is the one who's being persecuted. The one in the wrong is the persecutor. Period. So that's the only way I'm going to understand that. All the diligent study and efforts to acquire good character traits will be of no help if one has not acquired this principle. So you got that? Here I go. I learned Talmud Devorah. That was I love that course. Okay. Then we taught Path of the Just. Then we went through something else. What did we just go through? Forget what we just Shari Tshuva. We went through Shari Tshuva. 3 books hitting us, giving us direction as to how to do things properly. And I knew everybody went home, and I knew they tried to instill themselves what they were saying. You thought about. We also learned the Chafetz Chaim on Lashon Hara. I'm sure everyone went home, right? Fine, everything's great. But if you didn't go through the books of the ruling and find out what's really behind everything, so you worked in yourself, you thought in an immoral way, but watch what happens. But when one disagrees with a fellow Jew, one is certain to decide the matter in accordance with one's natural tendencies, and even if they have been refined and perfected. Often they will not be in accordance with the halacha that was handed down from heaven.
So the studying works, that just because they don't go into depth with the halakha that's behind them, we've essentially either not really learned what we should learn, or we've learned them incorrectly. Is that what you're saying?
No, what he's saying is, if all I do is I work on those books of Musar, right, and I get my I used to think I said follow the beacon. Okay, if you always have the beacon in front of you, namely Torah in front of you, God in front of you, so that you know where to go. But the problem is, if I don't know what the halacha is, I know where I should be going, but I don't have my halachic GPS isn't working. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. My halachic GPS is not working properly. It's off. Needs needs to be adjusted. Whatever they say. Recalculating. Recalibrating route. Okay. So that, how do I recalculate? How do I recalibrate? Only by learning the laws of, by going inside and finding out what the halacha actually is. When I want to know about Lashon Hara, this always comes up, because we talk about Lashon Hara so much, and we say, but what if I know that this person is a danger it's a danger, or is abusing their children, but he's Jewish? Can I give him over to the non-Jewish police? We have laws against this. Okay, and so everybody says, no, you need to turn him in. That's the law. These people are enforcing the law. They're going to get this dangerous person out of the society, so to save people. So at that point, you're obligated to turn them in. Okay, but people don't realize because they went to some class and they heard that you don't want to be Moshe the people, because in those days when you would give them over, probably also Russia you're coming from? Probably also in Russia this would have been the case. If you give them to the KGB, they're bye-bye. They're dead, they're gone, in the end of it. Give them to the NRA, Patriot Act. No, Patriot Act.
What?
In this country, the Patriot Act. You go into Patriot Act, you told me that there's a law for good. So you don't even, there's no trial, no nothing. Which amendment is thrown out by that way?
The fourth, fifth, and I think those are the only two that are.
Okay, fourth and fifth. Just threw them out because the Patriot Act, we're trying to protect ourselves, okay? But that's really what it is. If I don't know the halacha, if I don't know the law, you don't have to look at it. It's all right. It's not that. It's not that important for what I'm saying. But if we don't know the halacha and we just think that we're doing well, you know what they say about good intentions: pave your way to Gehenna. Because you're not doing it. That's why also it says in the halacha. Yeah, it says in the halacha. That is, let's say I learn a page of Gemara a day. Fine, great. I think I'm on top of the world. I'm with everybody else in the world. We're all learning one daf, same daf, all the way throughout the whole world. We're all learning. Okay. The halacha says that I have not completed my mitzvah of Talmud Torah, of learning Torah, unless I've gone to the halacha. I have to go to the halacha. I learned the page. I should go, it's on the side, I should go and take 5 more minutes and find out what the halacha actually is. Because all I've learned was theoretically, and I have a whole bunch of arguments in my head, but I don't know where we went. So I'm supposed to open up according to Jewish law, and find out, okay, this is how we adjudicate the case, great. I know the argument, I know how we rule. That is learning Torah. Because I'm learning it for practical purposes, not just the theoretical. Oh, I love the argumentation. People love to learn Gemara for that. They love the Talmud. Oh, it's so great. I can hear all these different. We argue through the years. It's so wonderful to see how people argue. No, that's not the point. The point of Torah is to live by Torah. And in order to live by Torah, I have to know how we rule in those cases. So yes, it's important for Talmud Torah. I have to know what the reason is for what we're about to say. But in the end, I have to know how to act. So here, Musar is getting me to understand who gave the law. God. That I have to keep going through God. I have to constantly recalibrate my route. Boom. Recalculating route. I have to know where I'm going. But how do I get there? Only through the halachic process. So if I only did one, namely Musar, but I didn't do the other, namely halacha, I'm not able to recalibrate properly. I'm going to miss the turn. Okay? Jews are driving analysis. And the basis of, so he says, if the basis of judgment is perverted, all its results will also be foreign to the Jewish way and destructive. The above-mentioned local teachers will be crying out, asking to be saved from their persecutors, while the response from heaven is, woe to those who act like Zimri and act for Pinchas's reward. Who was Zimri? Zimri was the one, let's put this into total storyline. The Jews were on the outskirts of Moab, Midian. They were on the outskirts of Midian. And Bilam was asked, Balak, the king of Midian, asked Bilam to come and curse the Jews. Well, Bilam didn't get the job done, but what he did do is he said to Balak, I have a way to help you out. Take my advice. The God of the Jews hates immorality. Send the girls, let them become involved in immoral relations with them, and then God will take vengeance upon them, and then you'll be able to beat them. That's simple. So, Balak hated the Jews just as much as Bilam did, And what he did was he sent his daughter, actually. He and some other people sent their daughters. Their daughters did. So who was it? It was Zimri and Cosby Batsor. Okay, Sor was one of the kings. So Zimri gets involved with Cosby, and along with everybody else, there's 14,000 people who get involved, and God sends a plague. Pinchas says, "I'm going to stop the plague." He throws a spear. Many miracles happen. It pierced Zimri and Cosby in the sexual organs while in the act. There's a whole act. There's a whole story line behind that. But nonetheless, Zimri is the bad guy. Okay. So what he's saying is, woe to those who act like Zimri, where I am doing what I'm sinning, but I want Pinchas' reward. Pinchas was rewarded for that act of zealotry by being awarded the Kohen Gadolship, along with Aaron and the rest of his family. And the reason Pinchas didn't get before was he wasn't there. That's what the rabbis say. He was a little late coming, as it were. But but his reward is Brit Shalom. I'm going to give you my bris of peace, my covenant of peace, and that's because he acted in God's behalf. So now, like I said, woe to those who act like Zimri and ask for Pinchas' reward. You yourself are the persecutor, for you are the one who does not take Torah law into account. What's the Torah law? Teachers can come into your town without any problems, and here you are persecuting them. And now you want to claim you're your persecutor. So you want to claim that you're the prosecuted. You're the persecuted. What are you? The one who's doing the persecution.
Persecutors.
Okay, you're the persecutor, and you're claiming you're the persecuted. That's what I have.
There you go.
Okay, and so it's so he says, I wrote in my Torah that is not right to hinder new school teachers from coming to town, and you did. So you're yelling. You think you're the tzaddik. You think you're the righteous guy, but really you're the rasha. And all this because you learned something about Sagas Gavul, about you can't move the borders. But you didn't know enough, you didn't learn enough about it. You thought that because you were such a nice guy, and that you worked so hard on your moral standings, but yet you threw out the baby. You kept the bathwater, the dirty bathwater, but you threw out the baby. Okay? You need to have a total thing. That's what he's saying. Like I said, it would be interesting if someone would ever if someone would know if he was part of this, some sort of an argument. Because Chazon Ish is coming to Israel from Europe. He wasn't born in Israel. So it would be interesting to note if he was immersed in this sort of an argument.
Interloper educator in Eretz Israel. People thought of him that way.
I don't know. I'm saying it would be interesting to note if that was what was going on.
He seems rather passionate about
Right. As passionate as I am about certain things that I have. Right, it hit a nerve. It does seem to hit a nerve here because he goes on and on about that. So I can't. Maybe it was something that he saw, because he's really writing to his audience. He's really writing to an audience here. So he may have seen something that he's referring to.
What's the organization back in those days that may still exist that was about Americans supported it for the education of building a religious educational system because they didn't want them going into the secular schools. Is it Atmai or something?
Well, he wouldn't be against that.
No, he was part of that, I think, and that's maybe why he was saying they were looked upon as the interlopers, as the intruders.
Okay, could be. Like I said, it seems that just from the reading, from how he's writing, he seems to, as you said, strike a nerve. Something happened here that he really was fighting this. So I'm not sure about the history. When I was reading it, I was thinking, is there something here that we could find out? Maybe I'll give you the research project.
I'll look.
Because it would be very interesting to know if he was involved in this sort of thing, and that's why he's writing so passionately about this particular subject under using halachic terms, and wants to go at it. Okay. A person's evil inclination is especially active when the sin is hidden and unclear. For the force in man's heart that condemns destructive behavior, the force that adds a person in his battle against the body's desires and wishes, this force is dormant and it lacks the power to condemn the evil results of a crooked judgment. Feelings do not take note of halacha, and if one follows one's emotions, it will not even occur to him to examine the possibility of the judgment being fallacious. It is therefore not at all surprising to find individuals whose character traits have been refined to a certain extent, but whom we suddenly see under particular circumstances displaying a different trait. Okay, so again, you see this many times when you're talking to people where they normally be very quiet, they're refined, and then suddenly you strike a nerve and they're throwing things. You think, what happened to you? I thought you were so much in control of yourself, and here I see that you're just a wild Indian. But you don't say that to the person because you don't want him to shoot you. But it's you're thinking, whoa, something happened to this guy.
When the theoretical becomes personal.
Right. And that's what he's saying. If I had conditioned myself halachically and philosophically, and I would have really put that together, so then it would potentially save me from that outburst. It won't always save you, but you have a much better chance of being saved and not getting involved with that way. The other thing people also like to do is, if I'm having a discussion or a disagreement, let's call it what it is. If I'm having a disagreement, this happens with spouses, by the way, constantly. When two spouses are having a discussion, you want to get something from your spouse, and your spouse doesn't want to give. So you can be saying the same exact thing, you're going to have a fight about it.
Examples, please.
No, I there's no real example, but it's, I remember listening to two people argue, and I said, stop arguing. They looked at me, why? I said, because you're both agreeing with each other.
Yeah, sometimes you can agree. And
it's just different words. It's different words. They're using different words to get the same idea across, and the person listening is saying, you're not arguing. You're just using different words to get the point across. But there's not an argument. And when they hear that, normally, if they're really not invested in the argument, they'll look and say, really? Okay. It happened actually today. And I heard two people having a quote-unquote discussion. And one person said something, the other person said, retorted. And I said to the person who was saying, I said, if they disagreed with you, walk away. Walk away. The person thought, okay, that was the end of it. Okay, but really they were involved in something that they wanted it said in their language. That doesn't work. So that's what I say, spouses will do that. When you have that you're trying to get some point across. I can't think of anything offhand right now. But if you think about the argument sometimes you have with your own spouse, you will find out that it's just a little bit of a difference in the language that we're talking about, and really sometimes it's the same argument. Okay? So that's part of being stuck in your argument, okay? As compared to just trying to say the halachic argument of, I just want to get the truth, whatever truth is. And I don't need to get the last word in, which is something that people love to do. Okay?
Something I noticed in many of these courses we've had, it's to take, like buzzwords and like hitting a nerve, rather than reacting emotionally, to try to think in a broader framework of this Mussar learning. And,
right.
When you say the words the Shem Shemayim, you're broadening your scope to where it's not just personal, but in the whole world view. How should a person react?
Right. There's one word that can end this actually two terms that can end an argument really quickly. One is you're saying an argument. You're presenting a point to me. If I want to end the argument, all I have to do is say two words. Not you're right.
I hear.
I hear. I hear. I hear your argument. There's no retort to that. I've responded. I heard what you said. Yeah. Or, if I want to get to the other way, that you're an Apikoros. Sit up Apikoros, leave me alone. Which you're a non-believer. You're a heretic. That shuts down the argument. I can shut down arguments many different ways, but that's the insulting manner. The complimentary one is I hear, where it says it's over. There's no way to go. I heard what you said. I can't do anything about it. But that's not. It may be l'shem shamayim because it depends on what the argument is. If it's really I hear, and I'm agreeing with you, so fine. I hear. There's nowhere. But people don't realize that, and they keep going blah blah blah. And you see, I agreed with you already. I hear what you said. You don't have to go over. What do you want to do? What do you want me to say to you? As compared to Apikoros. What do you mean Apikoros? Could change the argument too. But it's normally those are the easiest ways to end an argument. But it's a mean way to do it. As compared to, by the way, if I wanted to really say to somebody, this is what, how do you do it? You normally reflect the argument back. And as you say something to me, and what I do is I say, what I heard you say is this, blah, blah, blah. Am I correct? Then you have to analyze. Yes, you are. Good. Thank you very much. Which means I heard everything you said. I repeat everything you said. Again, I didn't necessarily agree with you, but I heard your point. So let's move on. That's all we can do. If I disagree with you, maybe I want to say back to you, this is what I believe is the problem in what you just said. And then you'll argue. And I'll say, can you repeat back what I said? So we have a good understanding. Okay? And that's what they call fair arguing. Where I tell you what you said, you tell me what I said. We have to agree on what each other said. It ends off arguments. Because each one says, no, I didn't say that. I said something totally different. Well, try it again. Okay? Tell me what you said. That's an argument to l'shem shamayim, by the way. That's the argument to l'shem shamayim. When I want to know what's really being said, as compared to hearing the buzzword and going crazy.
It's one of the first things you said tonight about defining terms. Because lots of times the misunderstanding is just not understanding the vocabulary and thought process of the other person.
100%. My favorite story about that, by the way, is Yiddish and German. In Yiddish, it's the best thing you can ever have. The guy said to me, I was working, so another Jewish guy said to me, kannst du reden Yiddish? Can you speak Yiddish? So I said, ja, yes, okay. So he says, was machst du? Now, in Yiddish, was machst du means, how are you?
Instead
in German, what are you doing? Okay? So what are you doing? So he said to me, was machst du? I said, gar nicht. Nothing. Okay? So he said to me, du kannst reden Yiddish? Ja, ich kann reden Yiddish. Was machst du? Gar nicht. Ich sag, was machst du? So I said, ich sag, gar nicht. Going back and forth, and he's getting excited. I said, what is your problem? He said, I asked you how you are, and you're saying nothing. I said, no, you asked me what I'm doing. He said, that's German. So I learned, that.
Plus, you also say the Haggadah like
Right? The Haggadah, okay. But I learned that a simple word. By the way, machen in Yiddish also exists. What do it's a different thing, but it's amazing. When I would see my parents, my mother spoke Yiddish, my father spoke German, and sometimes they would argue, but it would get lost in the language, and they would be arguing on different things.
Was tust du is what are you doing?
Was tust du?
Well, we have a dialect thing going here.
German would be tust.
Yeah, no, in Yiddish.
Max nix.
Okay. What is it?
Max nix.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. When it comes to it, could be the language, that we run into problems with. I see tomato, you said tomato sort of thing, but it could just be I misunderstand, and this, by the way, this is a problem when we're speaking inter-religion. It's also, by the way, a problem when we're speaking inter-Jewish religion. When I'm speaking with, when the Reformed, Conservative, and Orthodox rabbis get together, we all use the same terminology, but we mean worlds of difference. When I say mitzvah, I mean commandment from God, because I believe that God gave us the commandments. The Reform and Conservatives, since they don't believe in the revelation of Sinai, they don't accept that as I accept it. So now when they're using mitzvah, which they translate as good deed, okay, it's really, I'm not saying the rabbis translate it that way, I'm sure they translate it as mitzvah, commandment, but my question to them is, so who's the commander? If you don't believe that Hashem gave the Torah at Sinai, so then who's the commander here? I have to have a commander to have a commandment. So for me it works, but for them it doesn't. When they say Ma'amad Har Sinai, the revelation at Sinai, again, you don't believe in that, so what are we talking about? When it comes to Shavuot, I said Torah came that day. They don't. What are you celebrating for? So really, when you get together, it's very difficult to know what you're referring to, because we're all speaking the same language, meaning totally different things, worlds of difference, and it's very hard to have that conversation and to be on the same page. And our congregants, who really are just Orthodox Jews in reality, because they all believe Torah came from Sinai, philosophically they're all on my side in that sense, but they're confused at why we're having an argument, because they don't get the point. Because like I said, really everybody who's not a rabbi, for the most part, I'm sure that you have some people who believe who are knowledgeable as to what the movement believes, but for the most part, everybody says they saw the movie. Moshe got the Torah from on Mount Sinai from God and gave it to the Jewish people in front of everybody. All 3 million people there, everybody heard God. They're denying that. So, like I said, that's when it comes to a whole big problem of who makes a beit din, which you asked about yesterday. Who's doing anything? What does Shomer Shabbos mean? What does keeping Shabbos mean? According to me, it means I can't walk, I can't drive, can't do this, I can't pick up the telephone. According to the Reform, you can drive, pick up the telephone, spend your money. No problem. There's no problem for that, because they don't hold by the ritual laws. They only hold by the moral laws, as long as the moral laws agree with the morals of today. Okay, and the conservative, they say you can drive to shul if you live too far away. But if you live close, you really shouldn't drive, but people don't listen to that either, and they drive. Really, according to, and so on and so forth. But our definition of Shomer Shabbos is totally different. But again, we're going to use the same terms. You understand what I'm saying? When we don't define terms, it creates a whole problem. So certainly when I'm speaking with Christians, with Muslims are totally different dialogue. But when we would get together, and there's times we do, and when we're speaking, we have to really define terms. If we don't, we're all lost. I mean, I said to somebody, they asked me what holiday was. He's a Roman Catholic. I said, he asked me the holiday. I said, Shavuot. I said, I think you guys call it Pentecost. And, whoa! He said to me, oh, really? I said, what is Pentecost? He told me what it was. I said, nope, forget it. It's not Pentecost.
No,
not Pentecost.
not even close.
No, it's
It
not.
happens at the same time.
Right, but I said Pentecost 50.
Oh.
I was going 50 weeks. Okay, that makes sense. So it was, but I learned my lesson that no matter what it is, you can't speak. You have to just say your terminology and then explain what it is. And that's the only way you're going to get headway, because otherwise everybody's using the same terms. And that becomes the problem. You cannot do that.
Still grappling with the concept of Shomer Shabbos and Reform.
Say it again?
I'm still grappling with the concept of Shomer Shabbos and Reform in the same sense.
No, but they would, well, all joking aside, they claim that they're honoring the Sabbath by going to synagogue, whatever else, but since they don't legally have to listen to the legal machinations of the rabbis, the Talmudic rabbis, they are freed from that. That's the reform part of that. So they just say by going to shul or recognizing Shabbos in some manner, so they fulfill their obligations. That's Chol B'Shamor. But it's strange because since there's no law, quote unquote law, although now they probably did have something, probably made something else up about that, because they also have an old tradition. Let's face it, if you go to the bookstores, you can get, or if you go to Notre Dame Library, Notre Dame, you got it? I didn't say Notre Dame. Okay, Notre Dame Library. So then there's a whole section on the 13th floor. I saw Reform Responsa. Amazing thing to look at, but it's and they're coming from their perspective. I disagree diametrically. I'm diametrically opposed to what they say, but they still have Responsa, and they try for some reason to develop a halacha when at the same time the movement was originally made of we don't follow ritual law, which is why you normally don't put tefillin on, you normally don't have minyan, you normally don't have any of those things. It's not necessary for that movement. Conservatives are different. They claim different things, but they're a break-off of the reform, which is why they still hold by many of the reform teachings. So we have to understand they weren't a break-off from Orthodox. They're a break-off from reform. They went Orthodox. Our baby is reform. Reform's baby is conservative. Conservative's baby is Reconstructionist. Everybody had offspring here. But it wasn't all of us. Okay, it's a whole thing. Again, I invite you to it's online. It's a history class. It's a great thing to watch, and it will explore all those different things. Not detail, but it does go through.